people have suggested that I unhook the MAF and let it default to the computer as if it can't read the MAF here, and see what that does. So, all right, well, looking at the MAF sensor, it's not dirty, it's not obstructed. It's warm already. I just got back from a car show, so it's nice and hot, and didn't want to start when I just tried. Back in, let's see how it starts up. I wouldn't say it was a whole lot different. So let's plug it back in. And see what that does. And with the MAF plugged back in, let's see how it starts up. All right, several folks have suggested I swap out the coil for my no start when warm condition. This is brand new. It was replaced. It came with the performance distributor and the live wires as a kit from LMR. So I have my old Ford Motorcraft coil, so I'll swap that out and see what happens. As of right now, it is exhibiting the symptom. I've had it idling in the garage for about 5 minutes, and when I went to restart it, it would start up and then instantly die, which is what's typically doing. So we'll see if this is it. Got the Motorcraft back in, so let's see if she starts right up or not. All right, so the coil is not the problem. I decided to bump the fuel pressure up just a couple PSI. So before, with the vacuum line off and plugged, I had it set to 40. With the black vacuum line plugged in, it was down to about 36. So I just bumped it up to about 42 with the vacuum line off, and that's got it, with the line back on, sitting at about 38 or 39. So let's see what happens now. No change. So same deal. So no change. The coil was replaced. The fuel pressure, I bumped it up. Still, it doesn't want to start, or it stalls out right away, and then it struggles to find its idle. That's all what's been going on from the very beginning. So another thing I remember that I've changed recently, I've said in a few of my other videos that I had the computer rebuilt early this year. I think it was February or March timeframe. I sent it out to Fox Resto and had the capacitors replaced and had him bench test all the circuits on it. And I put that in, and while I was waiting for that to come back, I also had some of the heater core and stuff taken out because I was replacing it. So I had easy access up in here. So I replaced the EEC relay. It was something that I didn't necessarily think was bad, but since it was easy access then and would be a pain now, which I realize it is, there's a relay up in above the computer that's mounted on the metal of the, not the firewall, but on the side of the car here above the computer. And it looks like this. It's connected to the computer. This is the new one. I've already taken it out and put the old one back on. So It is a pain to get in there around the HVAC unit, but I was able to get it disconnected from the wall and replace the old one back. So just a thing to remember on it, you don't try to pry up on the connector that plugs into it. You push down and pull out, kind of similar to the salt and pepper shakers, I guess. That's the style of connector on this. So save yourself some time and prevent you from breaking the connector if you're having an issue with the fuel or the starting or electrical issues and you've tried everything else like me. This EEC relay is also a possibility. So we'll see if now that the old one's back in, if anything's changed. Okay, after putting the EEC relay in while it's still warm, let's see if anything's changed. Well, it didn't die a couple times, but it still has the hesitation and lost its idle, which has been part of this from the beginning as well. Let's try it one more time. Yep, so scratch another one off the list. I've already tried the coil. This is a new distributor and TFI that was replaced a few weeks before the issue started, so it didn't start at the same exact time of when I replaced it. I replaced the old original 36-year-old distributor because it had a bad PIP sensor in it, and decided to get an all-new system. Coil, TFI, distributor, wires, all that. And really don't know why it would be the distributor, but we all know how parts are these days. So in I guess a Hail Mary, I've decided to buy another distributor. It'll have its own TFI on it. And some of you don't throw parts at it crowd are probably going to cringe, but at this point, my time is worth more than some of these parts are to buy. So it's time to rule out more potential causes. And this is one way to do that. So I'll get this unboxed, and it's a cheapie. It was less than $100, but it's just my way of finding out if this is actually bad or not. All right, we got the new Cardone distributor and TFI in. I kept the same cap and wires in place. So the engine's still pretty warm. The IAC is plugged back in. TPS was double checked, 0.98. Got my RPM set where I want them with the AIC unplugged. So everything should be exactly as it was, other than the new distributor. So let's see if she fires right up or not. No. Try it one more time. Okay, well, I know the distributor is real close to where it was. I marked the pointer with tape and took a picture for the angle of the TFI, so I'm definitely not off far enough where it shouldn't start. IAC number 3, the car's already warm. It's been running a couple times because I reset my RPM again and then reset the TPS. Got another IAC. Let's see what happens. So same problem. happens every time I get it started after it's warm. I'm not giving it any gas. Finally, it smooths out. This time, at least it started the first time. If you've been following along, you know that sometimes it's 4 or 5 tries to get it to start and stay started. And every time it does start after it's warm, it searches all over for idle. So the IAC, I don't know, it's 3 in a row where it's not fixed it. I'm gonna unplug it again and see if we get the RPM to go down. So if the RPM goes down, it should mean that the IAC is working. I did not notice a difference at all. All right, so I was reading that the red wire, which is on the left here, should have 12 volt constant when you plug it and then ground to the car. So I'm gonna go turn the key forward. And should have 12 volts, which I do. Okay, so then I read if I jumper the 2 of these across, that should fluctuate between 5 and 12, I think. Okay, it's not doing anything. So let me double check what I was reading and come right back. All right, so this is a pretty good article I found talking about common problems with idle surge or not wanting to start when warm. It's on Foxbody, and it says here, look for 12 volts red wire on the and ground to the engine. If engine is running and there's no voltage, okay, so maybe I have to have it running instead of just key on, engine off. Let me go. All right, so I took the old fuel injector harness out, and it just so happened to have a spare I've had for a couple of years now. It doesn't look as nice, but as far as I know, it works. I'm going to talk a little bit about a section that goes into the electrical side of things with the IAC circuit. So on my car, I have noticed that when I unhook the connector from the IAC, it does not slow the RPM down like it should. So I've actually replaced the fuel injector harness because I had another one. That's why there's no wrap on this one. It's an older one. That did not do any good. So I got my voltmeter out, and the article says if you go across the actual IAC itself from one pin to the other, you should be somewhere around 10 to 14 ohms. So I checked mine, and I'm 10.4, so I'm within the acceptable range on the actual part itself. When you get to the harness here, it says take the positive lead on your voltmeter and put it on the red wire inside the connector, and then ground the other lead to ground on the block, and you should have 12 volts. And in my case, when I do that with the car running, I'm getting about 14.4 volts. Then it says when you connect the 2 leads from your voltmeter to each of these pins in the connector, it should alternate somewhere between 0.5, be above 0.5 and be below 12. because it's constantly supposed to send ground signals in and out so fast from the computer, the voltmeter can't keep up. But what I'm getting is 13.8 volts. So I'm higher than what the article says it should be when you're going from one wire to the other. I haven't figured out exactly what that means yet, but it could be, I guess, the computer, or it could be the main harness coming up to the fuel injector harness, because I replaced the fuel injector harness. It did the same thing both times, but I've not messed with the harness that goes into the computer. So with these jumpered across from each other from the IAC, I'm getting 13.8 volts. What I'm reading is it should be less than that. I want to give everyone a quick reminder on a couple sites that have been around for quite a while, but maybe not everybody newer to the Foxbody world knows about these. Foxstang is one. It's got some really good problem solving articles in it. Common problems with surging idle. Tells you how to diagnose various things on your IAC, your TPS, vacuum, so forth. And then a similar article is also available on stangnet.com. It has cranks but no start checklist, and then it also has a surging idle checklist, and it's very extensive as well. Goes step by step through a lot of different things you can try to diagnose what is causing your issues. I used a lot of these in my work here in the last several weeks, and we'll talk about kind of what I found here in a minute.